Hello and welcome to Shakespeare Reviews. Today we are talking about the 1999 feature film A Midsummer Night's Dream, based upon the classic play of the same name. This stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Kevin Kline as Titania and Nick Bottom. If you're wondering what it's about, well, a couple of lovers go off into the woods in order to escape a overarching patriarchal society to try to find love, romance, and then a little bit of magic. Some actors get caught up in all of it, and none of it makes any sense. And it is one of the most beloved of all of the Shakespeare canon. Here today to talk about this play, this movie, with me, as always, is the amazing, the talented, the lovely, the magical Andrew McKee, the Irish Bard. Andrew, welcome. What do you think of that sum up?
That was very good.
Yeah,
Very apropos.
it doesn't make any sense, but the play itself, in fairness, says this doesn't make any sense.
Well, the characters think it was all a dream, so what's the problem with that? It can go all over the place.
If this week in winding theme, no more yielding but a dream.
Exactly. Well, look, this was your pick, so let's go ahead and start. I assume since you picked it, you liked it a lot. So, I mean, what were your thoughts on this?
Well, this came out 1999, the year I graduated high school. It was in the spring of that year, if I remember correctly, and I got to see it in New York City.
Ooh.
I know. Seeing a film in New York City, in Midtown Manhattan, in the 90s was a treat. New York still had just the tiniest bit of seediness. It hadn't completed its Disneyfication, and that's not a bad thing. It's just there was a little bit of dangerous, seedy Manhattan still there. And I
Has a bit of credibility to it when it's in New York, with
probably
some of the highest ticket prices in the country. So very bold, very bold.
And at the time, $15 for a matinee ticket was really high.
Yeah.
And now that's becoming the standard across the country. But New York, always ahead of the game. I enjoyed this film then, and I really appreciate this film now. I don't love it in some of the ways that I used to.
Oh.
A lot of the silliness in it. I think some of the acting could be, frankly, better. But I still hold this film up in high esteem, due in no small part to the work of just three actors in the film. Michelle Pfeiffer as Titania, Stanley Tucci as Puck, and Kevin Kline as Nick Bottom. I think that if everyone else in the movie were absolutely terrible, they would have still, with their acting, made it an enjoyable romp. And that being said, the rest of the acting in the movie is not terrible. Some of it could be better. In Callista Flockhart, I'm looking at you.
It's interesting that you say that, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying on that. I came at it from a completely.
You sound surprised that you agree with me.
Well, after some of the previous films, yeah, a little that we reviewed.
Wow,
but no,
thanks.
I came at it from a completely different perspective in '99. I went in watching it and was not very impressed. I thought it was horribly miscast at the time. And one of the premier ones was Callista Flockhart, who had just made a name for herself in Ally McBeal, and after about 2 seasons of that was at its height in pop culture.
It was, yes.
And putting her in that role, I thought it's a similar role to her character on Ally McBeal. It really is. I mean, a frustrated person who's a bit emotional and has trouble with men. I mean, that's kind of Ally McBeal. So and a lot of her mannerisms and her facial expressions were the exact same.
Yeah.
And
just the way she said certain lines.
Yes.
She sounded incredibly petulant. And I don't mean that, because the character itself of Helena is trod upon. It's a character that requires a lot to get you to love her, because she's always complaining, why doesn't somebody love me?
And I don't think she really brought that out where you felt a lot of empathy for her.
No, she didn't. Yeah, she got all the petulance, but very little of the empathy. You're very right on that. But
That was
that
a
being
problem.
said, looking at this film 21 years later, it's simply a matter of she was miscast. If she had been, for instance, one of the mechanicals, or
Yeah,
or even Hermia, if she and Hermia had been just switched, I think she would have actually done a lot better.
I agree. I
That
agree
being said,
totally.
she's too tall to be Hermia.
Wow. Okay.
You dwarf, you acorn.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. And I will say that watching it 20 years later, and with Ally McBeal not on my brain like it was back then in everybody's brain, really, I I could pull myself away from that. And I want to give her a little more credit. I want to say that she really tried, and she really went a bit over the top. And in my opinion, she took more risks as an actor than several of the other actors in there who, in my opinion, were a little bland.
Yeah, Rupert
I'm looking at
Everett.
Christian Bale. I am looking at Christian Bale. Um,
Yeah. Christian Bale. Well, in that sense, they were very evenly matched. Her and Christian Bale, two miscast people,
yes,
in
yes, and
a relationship.
but
Um,
I don't think that was the only problem with the film that I had, though.
all right, well, let's go into your problems because I think they might be
Should I be
more
lying on
than
a
my
couch?
loves.
Because I just feel like I should be lying on a couch when you said that.
All
Let's go
right,
into
you
your
know what?
problems.
I'll get out my notebook
Yes,
right
yes,
now.
Shakespeare.
All
Oh,
right, so
it's all about my
let's.
mother. It really is.
Yes, yeah, I
No,
know. It's always about your mother, and let's get into that.
no.
So,
It was. Okay. When I rewatched this again for this review, I actually ended up watching it several times because the first time I always watch it for, just to kind of get a feel for it. The second time I go in just to get the graphics and take a few extra notes. But something kept bothering me about the film. Now, a lot of the stuff that I had problems with in '99 seemed to vanish. Those problems, Callista Flockhart and some of the miscast issues. But there was more, and I needed another watching to kind of bring it in. And I ended up doing a little research on the director, and that ended up clearing up a few of the problems. I mean, what my issue was. And if you look at some of his earlier films, he's done these huge, well, ensemble movies before with a notable cast and a very odd mixing of characters. The first time he did it was in 1991. It was Soap Dish, which is a film I actually am very fond of.
Soap
Are you
Dish is
familiar with it?
great.
Yes, yes. Okay, you are. And it had Kevin Kline in it. He likes to reuse actors, apparently. And Sally Field and Robert Downey Jr. and Elizabeth Shue and Whoopi Goldberg and Terry Hatcher and Carrie Fisher. I mean, it's a very odd mix of people that you will probably never see in any other film. But it worked because the roles and the movie demanded overacting. It demanded that type of odd juxtaposition that all the scenes were supposed to be awkward because
Yeah.
their lives were awkward. And it worked. But I also noticed at the time that the camera work and the editing seemed, how do I put it, somewhat sophomoric. I mean, it did not flow that well. It seemed very abrupt. But at the time, I thought it was on purpose and an interesting, good choice because, it was all about the whole life is like a soap opera for these people.
Yeah.
So where the film work for the soap opera ends and the camera work for their lives begin is blurred. And I thought that was great. And it worked well for the film. But then you start going into Restoration, a film he did in '95, which I'm actually kind of fond of too. It's visually very appealing and an interesting, diverse cast. Robert Downey Jr., again, Sam Neill, Meg Ryan, Ian McKellen, and Hugh Grant. I mean, who would think about Ian McKellen and Hugh Grant and Meg Ryan in a picture together?
Well, Hugh Grant and Ian McKellen should be in everything together, and I think that should
Well,
actually be written as a rule.
And Hugh Grant had a very minor role in this. It was kind of strange. But Meg Ryan, horribly miscast. All the reviewers said so. The film bombed in the box office, and that was a big reason why. And the flow of the movie was very weird, and it dragged. And that was a bit of a problem. And I looked and realized the editor in Soap Dish and Restoration, same person, Garth Craven. And then I look at this film and I see, I can even go into some of Michael Hoffman, the director's other films, like One Fine Day with George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer. Once again, we're using another person that he uses later, Michelle Pfeiffer. And that was a very awkward film. They did not have great chemistry together.
That was
the
not
film
a
did,
good movie. Period.
The what?
That was not a good movie, and
Kind of. The kids actually helped sell that film. They did a great job. They're kids in the film.
Yeah,
and
that's a picture in my mind that is a career ruiner.
But it wasn't.
It's so because it's such a milquetoast picture. It's not
true.
It's not so terrible that it's like, oh, we need to burn every copy. It's just, and when you're an actor and you do one or two of those here or there, it's just like, all right, you did it for the money. When you're a director on a picture like that, that can end you.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And
because a lot of times film studios would rather you fail big. Because,
yes.
Oh, well, you made it. It's like, oh, you took a swing. You took a swing, kid. And if you fail big, a lot of times the picture will still make a lot of money. It's just people won't like it. They'll see it almost ironically. Or at the very least, it'll be talked about all the time. So your name is out there, the studio is out there, and it's like, yep, this was our big failure. All right. But the films, those are the ones they hate most.
Yeah. Now, even though I agree with you that was a bit of an film, it did fairly well. Of course, you don't really. Yeah, you don't really need George Clooney testing well with audiences. Come on, that's not a shock. This was back in like the 96, so it's
ER period.
Yeah. So I think that kind of saved it. And honestly, the awkwardness that the lead actors had, they hardly had any screen time. They were all going off doing their own thing, each taking the kids in turn through the whole movie, and that kind of helped. The awkwardness when they got together was almost charming and endearing, except in the end, and they cheated at the end because they didn't really have the final scene.
Did they record the final scene on different days then? It's been decades.
The final scene was they end
up
that he surprises her and comes over and then she's like, oh well, here, let me get ready and clean up and everything, and she goes off, comes out, and he's asleep on the couch, and she just lies up against him, and that was it. That's how they cheated. They didn't have a really great final scene. They kind of did a little before that, but they didn't have the payoff at the end that you normally do. And that's how they cheated, and he made it work. I'll give him that, but it was still bad chemistry with actors and some miscasting. And I see this trend, and then I come into over here, and I'm thinking, I think I understand now. And while I think you're right, some of it was miscast for sure.
I also Callista think Flockhart, quite specifically, I think, was too old for the part.
She always looks young, though, so I can almost see that.
She does, yes. However, I think of The Birdcage, right, which was several years before this.
Mm-hmm.
She and the male romantic lead in it, they're both supposed to be 21 years old, and they're very obviously in the 30s. And then, again, in this case, she's supposed to be a kid. And she's 35. And you can make it work on stage. In film, unless you're playing everyone as incredibly juvenile.
Yeah. It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. And they weren't playing it as juvenile, they were playing her as petulant.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of a difference.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. And whereas Anna Friel, who played Hermia, was in the sweet spot for the age. She was about probably 22 when they filmed it.
Yes.
And
it is interesting. I thought Anna Friel and Dominic West did not have great chemistry.
No.
I also thought Christian Bale and Callista Flockhart didn't have great chemistry, but Christian Bale, he was. I have never seen him that bland in anything he's ever done. Period. Whether you're a Christian Bale fan or not, whether he's too extreme, too whatever. Whatever your view of him, at least he's got acting chops.
Wait, are you're saying he was bland in this? Well, good for you. Oh, you're just sitting there making your judgment calls while he's up here doing the hard work of acting. So good for you. Gonna throw a phone at you.
Well, that's why I wouldn't say that in the room with him.
No,
But,
definitely not. Definitely
I
not.
value my life. But no, I mean, but based on the previous movies I cited, I really think I'm kind of going to back off. I'm going to say, maybe this is Michael Hoffman's fault. Maybe it's not Calista Flockhart. Maybe it's not Christian Bale. Because also take a look at the players.
Who is the casting director for it, though? That's the bigger question when you come in.
And I couldn't find that.
Like
if that would be interesting, because if they were the same, but I mean, often the director is involved in casting.
Yes. So here's the thing I'm going to say with that. Based off of a prior track record of uneven casting, saying I like this person even if they're wrong for the part, I'm going to say this was just purely miscast, using actors who in other arenas have all proven themselves to be quite good.
But take a look at the acting troupe, though. I mean, Peter Quince and group. I mean, they were pretty bland throughout most of the film until the end.
And you have Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell stole the ending. I mean, that was great. I mean, a lot of the actors there were several actors in here who kind of got their start because of this film, and he was one of them.
No, Sam Rockwell had already done other work such as Galaxy Quest.
No, that came after.
No, it did not.
Yep.
All right, I'm looking it up right now. I never do this, but I'm looking it up right now.
After this, he did The Green Mile. And then that sort of got him some recognition, and then Galaxy Quest immediately after that.
All right, Galaxy Quest was also a 1999 picture.
But it came out afterwards.
Oh my god. I'm gonna smack you.
It did.
Maybe, but it came out after.
If you go in sequence of, it all kind of, okay, if you want to just say it all came out at the same time, but when he was cast for this, he was still not known. It certainly, he'd made a slight name for himself with, in indie films and all that, but still, he wasn't a household name or anything.
All right, fair enough.
And this really kind of helped his career. Stanley Tucci, he certainly had some indie film buzz, but he was not a household name before this film.
So for me, he was.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm just saying in the general populace. Now it's sort of like Stanley Tucci. Oh my God, everybody.
I was an 18-year-old kid when this came out, and Stanley Tucci was known to me.
I mean, he did the HBO film Winchell right before this, the year before, and
I didn't have HBO, so that wouldn't have any effect
playing
on
Walter
me.
Winchell, and did a great job. That was a phenomenal film.
Yeah. But the Tooch was terrific and wonderful in this, and yes. I keep not looking at the camera. I'm like continually looking at. That's fine. I need to find my focal point again. You're welcome, Internet.
He was great. I mean, I think he was certainly one of the better ones in the cast. But I mean, he was still fairly new, and Anna Friel as well. This actually helped her career a lot.
She was very new. She was again only 22 when they filmed it.
Most people would know her from, I guess, later Land of the Lost or Limitless. I think of her from the TV show Pushing Daisies, but that all came out after, and she credits this film as kind of getting her name out there because she was in a film with all of these heavyweights, all these known names.
So taking it away from the director potentially miscasting people, it's like, oh, I want to get this person, this person.
I don't think it was just miscasting though.
But beyond that, it's actually a little bit of a problem with the script.
Okay.
Midsummer Night's Dream is considered a pastoral romance.
Okay. Yes.
But it is not that romantic. It's not.
That's fair.
It is the lovers or the least interesting part of the story.
They're more like devices for the plot. I get that.
They are an overdeveloped plot device to get things moving and then also to wrap it up. They are the mechanism for the entire thing to work. They need to run off into the woods and then come back and get married because it's a pastoral romance. The main focus of Midsummer Night's Dream for nearly everybody is virtually always Titania, Oberon, and Nick Bottom. Those are your big three. Puck figures into that because Puck makes everything happen. And that's why you have Michelle Pfeiffer and Kevin Kline, in my opinion, being just bonkers amazing. Stanley
Michelle
Tucci.
Pfeiffer so brought it. She was so good.
Oh, she was on fire. Kevin Kline, on fire. Going back to an earlier statement, if you're doing Shakespeare, you want Kenneth Branagh. I would also argue you're doing Shakespeare, you want Kevin Kline.
He's a good choice.
Yeah, he is a great choice. He can do comedy, he can do tragedy. He does both with his Falstaff. I recommend anybody go find a copy of that somewhere. But
I think
Rupert
there were some
Everett
problems with Kevin Kline in this film, though.
Okay, and I'm sure they are real and not imagined.
But I want to blame the director, not him.
You can blame the director. It's fine. I don't owe this guy money. It's fine. You can blame him all you want. I'm just simply saying, though, the script, while beloved worldwide for 400 years, is not perfect.
All right.
The lovers are a device. The main thrust of the story is Oberon's spat with Titania over not getting the changeling child and deciding to, I'm going to mess with my wife and have her fall in love with a monster. And then Nick Bottom has nearly all the best lines other than Puck. For things such as, Lord, what fools these mortals be, up and down, I shall lead them up and down. And they do, betwixt him and Bottom, they do a wonderful job of going into blank verse, prose, and then perfect iambic pentameter, just like let's just fly back and forth between the poetry and the prose. And it's a beautiful thing when they're on stage. And then for the sequences with the lovers, you need people, not even so much with great chemistry of, oh, I buy them as in love. You need people who can be cute.
Okay.
And that's what the lovers are there for. You need them to be cute. So I've seen terrific productions of A Midsummer Night's Dream where the lovers are cute. And then I've seen all right productions of Midsummer Night's Dream where the lovers are, kind of like this. It's like they were miscast, but they're not the most important thing.
Okay.
And to their credit, in this version of it, the lovers' lines are cut down a lot. We focus on the fantastical far more than the mortal.
I was going to ask how close it was to the play in your mind, and it was...
It's close to a lot of productions where everyone says, the lovers aren't that great.
Okay.
Let's get rid of them. But speaking of people who should be in this far more, you have David Strathairn as Theseus.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, he's great in this small role.
Yeah.
Because Theseus is so tiny. Sophie Marceau as Hippolyta. Hippolyta has, I think, if I remember correctly, 9 lines in the original. And so it's like, but you got Sophie Marceau for this.
That being said, they also were insanely bland. David Strathairn, I mean, think of him from A League of Their Own, Sneakers, The Firm, LA Confidential, who amazing in that, and Good Night and Good Luck, one of my favorites. And he was very forgettable as Theseus. I mean, seriously, not grand, interesting, nothing. And Sophie Marceau is so misused in that. Think of her from Braveheart or Anna Karenina. I mean, amazingly good at emoting and conveying.
Bernard Hill.
Nothing.
Bernard Hill as Aegeus.
Yeah.
He's Captain Smith in Titanic. He is Theoden King.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, here's how much I love that. My coaster, at this moment, I just pulled my mug off of, this is it. It is the Tree of Gondor, all right? Mm-hmm. That's how much I love those books and movies. And so, I'm going to say, to a very large extent, it is the director's choices. The director's choices, not even just in the casting.
That was where I was going with that.
All right, well, we got there. Then
yes,
it is his choices that made it go. It's a lot of pull it back, pull it back. And
I think that hurt because Kevin Kline's character. I mean, he he didn't go over the top, but he definitely went grandiose, and everybody
Nick
else.
Bottom
I mean,
has to be over the top.
yeah, but
Bottom
then
has to be.
he's with Sam Rockwell and Bill Irwin, and I mean, people who really have great charisma and acting ability. And I mean, Bill Irwin's a literal clown. I mean,
Yeah.
he is a professional clown, and he looked bland. And I'm just like, that had to be the director, because I've seen everything I've seen him, and he was hilarious and interesting. Not this.
Yeah.
And
Another problem I have
Yeah.
with this film. Oh my god, I feel like, are you turning me around on this movie?
I'm
my
not
God.
trying to.
Are you turning me around in real time? Oh, geez.
No, not I.
Let's fast forward to the end and see what I think.
Yeah, right.
A huge, unforgivable lack of diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
Kevin Kline, white guy. Roger Rees, white guy. The late and great Roger Rees, but also came across as kind of and he was the freaking sheriff of Rottingham.
And this is, I mean,
Rockwell he stole it at the end, as you said, but but white guy. Max Wright, white guy. Bill Irwin, white guy. Jeffrey Jabara, white guy. Stanley Tucci, white guy. Rupert Everett, white
Very
guy.
good
Michelle
point.
Pfeiffer, white lady. Anna Friel, white lady. Dominic West, white guy. Callista Flockhart, white lady. Christian Bale, white guy. And in the photo I'm looking at of him right now, really good beard. David Strathairn, white guy. Sophie Marceau, white lady. Bernie Hill, white guy, but from Australia, so he can't help it. And then John Sessions, white guy. There is not a single bit of diversity in this. Not visual, not anybody's.
I mean, Michael Hoffman, he went to Oxford. He should know better.
Yeah, and it's just, it's. You would have seen more diversity on the stage in London in the 19th century when they set this.
Exactly.
They set this in the 19th century, and you would have seen more diversity then.
I really wanted to ask you this. What was your feeling about setting it in the 19th century in Italy? You know, okay, it's a Greek play. I mean, set in Greece, and they just move it over, move it over a little bit geographically, and then a huge bit in time.
I love the costuming, first of all. I think the costuming is beautiful.
Okay.
That being said, it's entirely because of Branagh.
Yeah.
It's obviously I cannot prove this, but it is because Kenneth Branagh likes to set the ones that he is intimately involved with in the 19th century.
I think you have something, and I think there's good proof there, because they followed the Much Ado About Nothing formula. Same budget, $11 million, filmed on location in Italy, same as them. I mean, a lot of films in the 90s followed that exact same concept.
Well, they didn't follow the exact same formula, because Much Ado at least gave some tacit diversity on screen.
Well, they followed. Okay, maybe the producers followed.
Whereas this one has none.
Yeah.
None.
They tried to follow the formula. I guess that's the way to put it.
But also, Much Ado, they rehearsed.
Yeah, there's that.
Much Ado rehearsed for a couple of weeks before they started shooting. They rehearsed it as a play, along with the camera movements and everything of like, here's where things are going to go, and we're going to be walking around and going to do huge walk and talks and everything. And they rehearsed it. Whereas this, I feel it was a lot of pull it back, be subtle.
They spent more time rehearsing the mud fight than they did the dialogue.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're turning me around on this.
Now, I'm really not trying to, but okay, maybe a little. But I've really wanted to ask what your view was of the switching between filming on location in Italy and then going straight to a soundstage or the fantasy parts.
Well, for the Athenian, I'm going to just call them the Athenian Woods.
Okay.
Or what do they call it in this? Monte Athena. It's just, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, switching it to Italy makes no sense other than trying to get 19th century setting that looks 19th century.
Fair enough.
With older ruins behind it. That is the only reason to do that. But you could call it Greece. You could call it Athens, and then do a quick pan up and there's the Parthenon.
Yeah,
There's the Acropolis.
and it would have worked. Okay.
You could do it that way. That being said, it was them trying to be too clever by half. It's Monte Athena instead of Athens. It's Italy instead of Greece. And everyone has English accents because it's Shakespeare. But setting in the 19th century wasn't my problem with it. My problem with it is so many other things. And I was ignoring them, and damn you, I hate you.
But did you like the Athenian Woods? I thought there was a really good pros and cons there, because
well, the pros is you can control it completely.
Yes.
You can have beautiful starlight, and it was lit beautifully.
Yes. There were some lovely scenes in there.
What are your cons for it?
Well, first off, it looked cheap. I mean, it looked kind of like it looked like a set, like on a play.
It did.
Very much so. Now, I know $11 million budget with that many name actors. Yeah, huge cast.
The budget was entirely in getting people to Italy.
I mean, but in my take on it, and probably they said, hey, you'll get paid scale, but we'll fly you to Italy. Maybe that works.
Everyone said, okay.
Yeah, that works. But I mean, you think about a fantasy realm indoors on set, and you think legend. I mean,
you think of a fantasy wood on set. You think Lord of the Rings, which was shooting
from then,
at this time,
or Legend from like 15 years prior, and that was, Legend was a British production, and a little trivia, also was done by the same production company, 15 years before. So yeah, but no, they didn't do that. They went and it looked very much, I mean, like fake foliage, and they went in and. I mean, but you're right.
I always assumed that they did it on purpose, though, to make it feel unreal.
I thought that might be a possibility, but at the same time, because they filmed on location, it really had this. The stuff in Italy looked so good, and then they went there. It kind of cheapened it a little for me. If it wasn't for there were some really great, beautiful moments with costumes and everything, and the way it was laid out. And some beautiful lighting, like you said. So that really helped make the difference. But I don't know. I mean, that and the bicycles all the freaking time, where I was like, really? I don't know.
I was waiting for you to be like, bicycles. For those of you who don't know, Andrew is deathly afraid of bicycles.
What?
And unicycles most of all.
That's not true.
Tricycles,
okay, actually, wait.
he can
Unicycles,
accept.
yes, I totally am afraid of unicycles. And that old 19th century bicycle with a really big wheel and the small rear one. Yeah. Hell no. But the bicycles in here were. I don't know. I see there were pros and cons to it, like we were saying with everything else. I mean, it really helped with movement. It helped kind of get a little more action in scenes that didn't have much. And
they did it well with Bottom.
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, I think it went a little out of hand. I mean, it was almost like it made some of the transitions seem abrupt. Scenes that should have been a little more endearing were suddenly boom. Okay, boom, bicycle. And
there's a beautiful blooper. I'll see if I can find it for you, of Kevin Kline running directly into the camera on his bike. And it wasn't done intentionally.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it was. I'm not sure if you noticed. It was a push backward on the pedals, stopping mechanism. And the gears popped. So that wasn't happening.
Yeah, those were some classic bicycles there. Not that.
And he's trying to drag, and he's like, you see his eyes pop out, and he's dragging his heels like, oh god. But he's not dragging him. He's not stopping fast enough, and boom, hits the camera.
Like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where they're all just kind of flying around going, ah!
Yeah, and it's one of those things of, because the swear that came out of his mouth was more of a Shakespearean oath.
Way to get in character.
I think he said something like odds Bodkins or something like that. It was just like, did he really? It's been years since I've seen that blooper, but
At least he didn't say oopsie.
It's just like, oh, they
there's
should have
that.
just kept that. They just like Bottom.
That would've been
Where's
hilarious.
Bully Bottom?
That actually would
Old
have helped.
Falcons.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah, add a little more.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I mean, yeah, the bicycles. I see both sides of that. I can see
Yeah.
what they were trying to do. I think I think it hurt as much as it might have helped. So I'm kind of neutral because I don't know.
when you bring something in to add color, you
Yeah.
can't over rely on it. It can only be there to add color.
That's a good point.
So
I think they over relied.
you know, you can't add extra tauntauns just simply because now you have the budget. You want some tauntauns in the background because the tauntauns were always there, and you know that's just how it is. Then have a couple of extra tauntauns in the background, but having
When you
them
open the
there-
door, a myriad of stormtroopers.
yeah, it's just like, wait, no, what? No, it's fine. You don't need that. So, Bully Bottom on a bicycle, great, and it's a good and becomes a good character choice as well. Everyone on a bicycle, bad.
The lovers, Puck on a bicycle. That was a weird choice. I thought.
I actually liked that one.
I mean,
because
it kind of was puckish. I'll grant
because
you that.
because it fell into the mocking of Bottom as well.
True.
It fell into the mocking of the Athenians,
But
which is what Puck is there to do.
I
Puck is
thought,
there to
I
take
thought
the Mickey out of
scene
everyone.
shift was a little jarring, though, the way they played that, though.
Mm.
I mean, I agree with you. It looked kind of cool, but it really hurt the flow. And I think another problem with this film was the flow was a little off. And I want to say that it might have been the editor, based on some of the past films, and the flow was.
I'm willing to
off.
bet, based off of what you were saying earlier about Michael Huffman, that he had a big say in the editing process
I
if
think
he
you're
were
right.
not the actual editor himself, because he also produced it and he wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
So he was incredibly involved in this at every level, which means this was his vision. He felt that this is the way to go. Have actors who can sing to the rafters in parts that are meant to be played to the hilt pull back.
You're right.
These were all his choices.
And even though
and
Christian
yet-
Bale was in Newsies and Swing Kids, he did not sing a note. I'm just saying.
No, I know, but you know, look at him. He's the king of New York, and it's fine. I mean, he will, at some point, stand on the rock. Once he finally realizes that he is in love with Helena and not Hermia, he will say, Santa Fe. Oh, why am I going into Newsies? Seriously, why? Why am I doing this?
Okay.
Well, it might be more apt for him to say, you know, Helena, this ain't working out. Because it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. You started it with talk of musicals. Now
it's my fault. It's my fault.
It really is. I
Speaking of
blame you.
music, let's
I
go ahead
blame
and
you.
jump into the whole soundtrack a bit, because
All right.
I think bringing it into the 1900s
19th century.
or not, yeah, the 19th century, sorry, yeah, 1800s Italy, it opened the door for some good stuff, like, well, using the Mendelssohn pieces for it, but also Verdi and Rossini and some
Yes,
good operatic works.
The music I had absolutely no issue with. I thought that was a
Yeah.
good choice. But you could have done the same thing, keeping it in Greece. Because when you remove it from Greece and take it over to Italy, you're losing some of the mythical aspect.
That is a good point.
Theseus, I don't remember if he actually says the line in this, but he talks about his kinsman Hercules. He is the Theseus of legend in the original play. And to remove them from that does a disservice to it, because you're taking out the reasons for everything to be set into motion. Theseus is the conquering hero of Athens. He is wedding the queen of the Amazons. And all of it is set into motion because they are having a gigantic wedding feast with great pomp and solemnity. And when you remove it from that setting, you do a disservice to it. And I'm not saying you have to play it ancient Greece. You want to modernize it by all means, but you have to keep certain elements there. You have to pay at least some small obeisance to the original concept because it allows the magic to come in. And if you're going to remove it from that, you have to find another way for the magic to come in. And they don't. And yeah, all of that being said, all of my problems that I have acknowledged because of you, and damn you to the 7th level of hell.
I pick things
for
apart.
it. I still like it. I like it in spite of itself.
You like it for its flaws, and you like it for its triumphs.
Yeah, I do.
I respect that.
I
and
do.
you know, I will say, the first time I watched it, I was turned off. I was like, really? Why do people like this? But watching it again, I figured out a few things and why I had some issues. But like you, they had a lot of charming bits that I missed in '99 that I totally didn't remember.
Yeah.
Some beautiful visuals, some amazing acting chops from Kevin Kline and Michelle Pfeiffer.
And Bottom sells his. And
great
Bottom
seeing Sam Rockwell and
sells
Stanley
his
Tucci at the
final bit.
beginning of their breakout moments, and some good stuff. I really, I like it a lot better now than I did. So I'm okay recommending it. I really am.
All right, good.
So
All right.
You kind of turned me around, really.
Oh my goodness, you brought me down a bit and I brought you up. Okay.
Yes. Meeting somewhere in the middle.
Wow.
Way to go.
We have found
High five.
comity and accord. Unlike the Republicans and the Democrats, we have brought together the Shakespearean viewing public.
They should put us in the Senate, I swear.
They really should. They really should. Oh, goodness. In that case...
You're the conservative one, I'm the liberal one. That works?
I'm the conservative one?
Well, you're old school. You're Shakespeare.
Fair enough. But... yeah, does that make me conservative, or does that make me OG lib? I don't know.
That's a good point.
All right. So...
I mean, but I figured the Senate, conservative, we're talking about an old white guy. So, who's the older white guy than you?
Michael Hoffman, he's the true conservative here. And we're using conservative and liberal, good guys, gals, and non-binary gingerbread pals.
Exactly.
Purely in the traditional senses of those words.
Naturally.
No modern context whatsoever.
I mean, at best, the most serious way we're using them is in total parody, mocking ways. So it's okay.
Absolutely. That's entirely true. So, what will you give this?
Ooh, I would give it a full bicycle reverse.
Full bicycle reverse. Oh my goodness.
I think it was very good. It has a little problem when it crashes into something, but it's still fun to watch. And it's if you want to give it in a number system or something, just to kind of translate that a little bit, I would say, it's better than middle ground at like a 3 out of 5 kind of concept, because
that's the same thing I was thinking.
It was, it's worth seeing. I mean, it has some good stuff, and especially with some of the not so good Shakespeare adaptations, this is certainly better than average. I think there were some missteps, some bad choices, but there were also some risks, some that paid off, and we're seeing.
All right. I will numerically also give it a 3 out of 5.
Interesting.
But I will give it, as you can see on the painting here behind me, a full ass's head. I will give it. So there we are.
Excellent.
You are transfigured.
It's funny, humorous, interesting, but it's still an ass. So okay.
Yeah. See, there you have it, and that's why it's a 3 out of 5. So, friends, that about does it for us. Please go like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Ring that bell. Life's Affair on all the things. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, maybe TikTok. I don't know. Are we doing TikTok? Who's to say?
Not yet. We'll see how the politics works out.
It's like, is it just going to be me saying full ass's head for an entire 15-second run? Who knows? But that being said, please go like and subscribe. If you want to support the show, you can support us by going to patreon.com/lifesaffair. And if you want to follow us individually, on Facebook, I am Shakespeare Approves, on Instagram, Shakespeare.approves, and on Twitter at Shakespeare Approves. And you can also support me and all of my silly inanity at patreon.com/Shakespeare. Andrew, where can they find you?
Well, on Facebook /The Irish Bard, and theirishbard.com is my website, and on Patreon, patreon.com/Irish Bard.
The funny thing is that you say /. We all understand it at this point.
I've heard so many people say backslash on URLs when they meant /, and I'm very cautious about that. And I also code, so maybe that's part of why I say it.
Oh, well, friends, we will see you next time. Make sure you use the /, because we don't want to backslash anything. Because when you backslash, you get backsplash and hit the camera.